Welcome to Open for Business, the Gallatin Valley's only local business and consumer talk show featuring Tom Egelhoff, the Man Entrepreneur Magazine radio called the leading authority in the United States for doing business in small town. Here he is, speaker, author, small business consultant, and Mrs. Egelhoff's favorite son, Tom Egelhoff.
All right, welcome everyone. Open for Business. We air every Saturday live from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mountain Time on AM 1450 KMMS in Bozeman, 1340 KPRK in Livingston, Montana. If you'd like to be a part of the big broadcast, go to kmmsam.com and click Listen Live. The call-in number during the show, 406-522-TALK, 406-522-8255. I'm here, you're here. Let's get the show on the road. 24 minutes for the top of the hour. It is Saturday, December 2nd, 2017, 36 degrees outside. And I want to welcome you to the podcast portion of Open for Business. Each week I share some tips and tricks I've learned over the years about advertising, marketing, promotion, and building strong, successful businesses. And if you missed any of my previous podcasts, you'll find them all on my YouTube channel. And while you're here, why not subscribe to my YouTube channel? You'll never miss another weekly podcast. And you'll also find a link to my podcast on my website that 3,000 people visit each and every day at smalltownmarketing.com. That's smalltownmarketing.com. And today's topic, I want to talk about right to work. Should Montana be a right to work state? Now, currently in the U.S., there are 28 right to work states. Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Michigan, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, all right-to-work states. Now, you might notice from this list that every state that borders Montana is a right-to-work state. Now, before I go on too much further, I should define what a right-to-work state is for listeners who may have heard the term but are unclear as to its meaning. Right-to-work laws in the United States are allowed under the provisions of the Taft-Hartley Act. Right to work prohibits agreements between labor unions and employers making union membership or payment of dues or fees a condition of employment, either before or after hiring. In right-to-work states, you can't be forced to join a union as a condition of your employment. Now, there's no question that unions provided a valuable service to workers as the industrial age evolved. However, these protections were necessary because most work was manual labor. If you were fired, there were 30 unemployed, untrained workers happy to grab a shovel or a hammer and take your place. So many unethical employers exploited workers who badly needed work and put up with poor working conditions, low wages, long hours, and no discernible benefits. So thanks to some union efforts, we now have a minimum wage, we've got OSHA, we've got the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, we've got wage and hour, and discrimination laws. Many employers now offer health care, profit sharing, 401k plans, and pension plans in order to attract the best possible employees. However, there are some unintended consequences of employee protection laws. With more government employee protections in place and state right-to-work laws, the role of unions in the private sector diminished. In 1980, 23% of Americans belonged to labor unions. By 2009, that figure fell to almost half, to 12.3%. There are now over 1 million fewer union members in the private sector than in 2008. As we've seen with the automotive industry, Japanese companies like Honda located in right-to-work states and produced a competitive product against Ford, GM, and Chrysler, who were saddled with all sorts of union-imposed pension and benefit costs. Union expenses are paid with dues based on and deducted from the member's paycheck. The average state or local government worker earns $39.83 an hour compared to $27.49 in the private sector. 80% of state and local workers have some form of pension plan, while only 50% of private sector workers do. Not only are we, the taxpayers, paying more for similar services done in the public sector, but we're also footing the bill for union dues and fees for union membership deducted from the employee's paycheck. If unions were going to survive, they needed to attract new groups to their membership rolls that didn't have the problems they faced in the private sector. So they began to target the public sector: teachers, government workers, and health professionals. So for the first time in history, public sector union membership has passed private sector membership. These groups had a major advantage to the unions when compared to the private sector. In the private sector, unions could demand unreasonably high wages or benefits and could force the company to comply with strikes or walkouts until the company agreed to their demands. Or the company may have to close up shop like Hostess did a few years ago. Unions would not allow Wonder Bread and Hostess products to be delivered on the same trucks. So no more Twinkies. Well, thankfully, another company picked up that ball and we have Twinkies on the shelves once more. But the unions quickly realized that while companies could simply close down, states, counties, and cities could not fail. If the union demanded more money, the only recourse to the government entity was to somehow increase their income, and that usually meant raising taxes or fees on you and me. Now, another disadvantage union faced in the private sector was competition from non-union companies. The unions realized there's no competition when it came to public services in cities and states. I can't walk across the street to fishing licenses for less and get a cheaper license than I can get from the state. The government holds a monopoly on certain necessary services, and the fees or taxes charged for those services. The union membership rate, the percent of wage and hour workers who were members of unions, was 10.7% in 2016. That's down 0.4 percentage points from 2015, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The number of wage and salary workers belonging to unions was 14.6 million in 2016. That declined by 240,000 from 2015. In 1983, the first year for which comparable union data is available, the union membership rate was 20%, and there were 17.7 million union workers. Public sector workers had a union membership rate of 34.4%. That's more than 5 times higher than that of the private sector workers at 6.4%. Workers in education, training, and library occupations and in protective service occupations had the highest unionization rates at 34.6% and 34.5%. Men continue to have slightly higher union membership rates, 11.2%, than women at 10.2%, and black workers were more likely to be union members than were white, Asian, or Hispanic workers. Among the states, New York continued to have the highest union membership rate, 23.6%, while South Carolina continued to have the lowest at 1.6%. Now, remember at the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned the need for unions when workers were being abused. Unions did protect workers from profit-driven, unscrupulous employers who provided poor working conditions, low wages in the private sector. So what protections are needed today for the worker in the public sector? Aren't state and local union members working for the people we elected to represent our best interest? Did we elect anyone who assured us they would raise property taxes so government workers could get a raise? Do we elect profit-driven, unscrupulous leaders who are out to get the government worker? I mean, these are your tax dollars at work, folks. Now, Illinois deficits have been in the news a lot lately. In that state, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees funded a Fair Budget Illinois campaign, and the campaign ran television and radio ads requesting voters to approve tax increases rather than spending cuts to reduce that state's deficit. And I think we all know how that worked out. Illinois recently raised both their state income tax and their state corporate tax, and they're paying about 8.5% sales tax as well. Why do they need all this? to cover the cost of public service union members' pension plans that Illinois can no longer fund. In Washington state, unions are pressuring the legislature to raise state taxes. In response, labor unions are threatening to withhold donations and fund primary campaigns against the Democrats who will vote for tax hikes. Right now, Montana is an attractive state for income and corporate taxes. How long Montana will last as a non-right-to-work state is anyone's guess. The National Labor Relations Board, a government agency, worked hard to keep a private company, Boeing, from opening a plant in South Carolina, a right-to-work state. Boeing moved anyway. So it's pretty tough for Montana to compete for jobs and industry when every state surrounding us are all right-to-work states. I know this idea is brought up numerous times in the legislature, but perhaps the time has come to look at it more closely. I personally feel that public workers are well protected by existing laws and the people we elect to supervise them. If they're being abused or exploited, there is recourse to protect them. Everyone deserves a fair wage for a day's work. No one can dispute that fact, but the taxpayer doesn't need to be gouged either. And that's the podcast. If you missed any of my previous podcasts, you'll find them all on my YouTube channel, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll also find a link to my podcast on my website that 3,000 people visit each day at smalltownmarketing.com. That's smalltownmarketing.com. So tune in each Saturday, and let's build successful businesses together. Let's see what the callers have to say. 522-TALK is the number, 522-8255. Caller, you on the air. What's your name? What's up?
Oh, good morning, Mr. I forgot. Oh, that's right. My goodness gracious.
Just call me Santa.
Oh God, I call you anything but late for dinner, right? Hey.
I'm the Saturday mayor, not the morning mayor anymore. I'm the Saturday mayor.
Yeah. Hey, I had the undubious pleasure of working for Communication Workers Union in Sacramento, California, years ago.
Yeah.
And California being a right-to-work state, and they went on strike one year.
Mm-hmm.
And what they wanted to do, Tom, was I worked for Ma Bell, okay?
Right.
Good old Ma Bell back in those days. And what they wanted to do was take the people that did not sign the card to be a union member, take all union privileges away from them, but force them to pay union dues, which is what they had to do. Now, I signed a card. I was a union member.
Okay.
All I got that my coworker that didn't sign the card get was all the crap news in the mail from the union, day after day, week after week. You know.
Okay.
Well, which is true.
Your union dues at work, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I know. But that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to take union privileges away from these people that did not sign that card.
Yeah.
Okay? But still make them pay union dues. Well, a bunch of us got in there and said, no, that's not right. If he is forced, and we had no choice, it came out of our paycheck. If he is forced to pay union dues, then he has all the rights to the union that I do. Like union steward, or what I'm saying?
Well, California is not a right-to-work state, so they could impose union membership as a condition of employment, and it sounds like that's what they did. And whether you wanted to get the propaganda or whether you wanted to opt out, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, I thought California was. Maybe back in the 60s and 70s it was.
Could be. Yeah, they're not there's 28 states I just named them off, and California is not one of them, and Montana is not one of them either. So.
Okay. Because they could not force you to join the union. All right. But
now that may be a state law. Right to work is determined by the state.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the Fed. So that's now they can adjust the laws however they want. And with all the right to work states, they may have felt threatened. So let's kind of modify our state laws to. The state that amazed me was Michigan, with all the auto workers becoming a right to work state there. But of course, some of the GM they're not what they used to be, of course, in Michigan. So those things are, those are the things that are we have to think about. The other thing about a union, now, you say you were in the union, right?
Yes, only because just because it was the first time I'd ever worked for somebody that was union. I thought, well, why not? I'll just put my signature on the bottom of the card. No big deal.
Yeah, I was like that.
I didn't. Huh?
Yeah, I was like that in Illinois. One of my first jobs out of school was I worked at the glass works, boxed up glasses, bottles, and put them on a cart and whatever. And you had to join the union to work there, and so.
Well, now Nevada, especially Las Vegas, is a big union town. They've got culinary workers, they got Teamsters.
They are remarkably a right to work state in Nevada, even though they've got a lot of unions. They got the SEIU there, which is really big.
Of course. Yeah, and I worked for Hilton Corporation, and I was office back behind the scenes, so I was not union.
Yeah.
So when those unions go on strike, they take blocks of hotels. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The whole town does not go on strike. I just happened to be at the Flamingo when they went on strike. And what really astounded me, Tom, is that those union workers had to go out and walk the picket line. They were forced to walk the picket line, and they were only given $5 a day.
Oh, yeah.
To walk. Yeah. And the president at the time was a woman. Mm-hmm. She would go from picket line to picket line in her $60,000 or $70,000 Lincoln Continental.
Right.
Okay. Still drawing a wage, and those poor kids are out there making $5 a day.
Yeah, I walked a picket line myself once, I know the feeling.
Oh, Carmen. Well, listen, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving.
I did.
Is Shane going to be with you today?
Shane's on the other line right now. Shane.
Oh, okay.
I am indeed.
Hi, Shane. I just got to work, and I can only listen to you guys a little after 11 o'clock, but you just have to be talking about unions,
Yeah.
And of course, I drove truck for many years, and I got to cross picket lines, especially when Boeing went on strike in Seattle. It just tickled the daylights out of me that I'd pull my big truck in, and the guards would say, keep going, keep going, And those union workers are standing there with scowls on their faces,
Right,
But anyway, all right, guys, listen, I'll let you go so somebody else can get in. Thank you.
And Merry Christmas to you.
I'll be talking to you before then, I'm sure. Thanks, Shane.
All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
All right. Shane McCobbin joins us from Vancouver, British Columbia. What about unions in Canada, Shane?
Oh, no. It's hardcore here. If it's a union, and BC is one of the strongest union provinces in the country, followed by Quebec. But got to belong to the union, got to pay the dues, no right to work here.
Okay. All right. So, well, that's something that came up a few years ago. I think Indiana, was the last state. We had the right to work folks on here one Saturday way back when. The one thing, and I've been in two unions, so I'm not anti-union and without some experience, but I'm not really anti-union. What I kind of fail to see with all the laws we have now, what the union really does for you, and I think the diminishing
return from it, right?
Well, yeah, I'm paying my dues. And, I've got right to work, or I've got wage and hour laws, I've got minimum wage, I've got, equal opportunity employment, I've got discrimination in hiring, all of these things. What does the union do for me above and beyond that?
Well, and I think, too, that the whole point of the union fees was to cover your wages if you went on strike. So the point the lady had that she made that they were being paid $5 a day to picket, by the union is a bit caustic for the unions when, they have these massive administrative salaries, like she pointed out, and then they stand on the picket line instead of getting their full wage from the union during those strikes. They get some dumpy little $5 a day fee, right?
Yeah, I don't remember getting anything walking the picket line myself.
But that
was a long time ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
The union dues were to cover you while you're on strike, and I think they burnt themselves. The old shoot you in the foot trick.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it in Illinois where, states can't go bankrupt, in case you didn't realize that, because they're part of the United States. They can't The states can't go bankrupt, but they got all these pension plans going through the unions, and now they can't fund them.
The interesting thing too is Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan, 3 right-to-work states, all went with Trump.
Well, yeah, and the other thing about a union that that I learned quickly was, people would tell me when I first started working, and I told you I worked at the glassworks, people would come up to me and said, "Hey, slow down. You're making the rest of us look bad."
Yeah, but did they charge you for breakage?
No, they didn't, surprisingly.
They didn't,
no? They didn't charge us for breakage. At least I don't think so. I didn't break anything, or not much anyway.
No,
but
no, you're a handy dandy man. You're not going to break anything.
I was a pretty darn good worker, actually.
Yeah, I would grant that.
Yeah. But the other thing, that I point out, you could work as hard as you wanted to. If you're in the private sector, and you work your butt off, management may realize that and say, hey, this guy is worth more than what we're paying him, or this girl is worth more than we're paying her. I think we need to give this person a raise for or a bonus or something like that. And I remember reading there was a hospital somewhere where nurses who got compliments from the patients, they were giving them gift cards. And the union said, no, I don't think that's going to work.
No.
Because it doesn't equally cover all employees. And that's the downside. I've always said that I only had to work hard enough not to get fired.
That's good. Well, and it's interesting how it evolved, because you mentioned the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947.
Yeah.
But under Truman, it was originally the National Labor Relations Act under Franklin Roosevelt's Second New Deal.
Yeah.
That set this up, right, with the closed shop, union shop, agency shop, and open shop, and the different aspects of unions to charge, for people in unions. And so it's evolved, as it should, under your democracy, by changing the rules and the guidelines. And that's a good thing. It evolves.
Yeah. Well, that's that's the thing. And I don't want to badmouth unions here. I'm not here to do that, obviously. But, when you sit back and you look at what do you get for, X dollars a month out of your paycheck that you don't see again. And as the gal pointed out, like most businesses, whoever's at the top is, riding around in the nice car. They got the nice, they got the corner bathroom. They got all
and you don't get a write-off your tax dues. That should be a tax write-off.
Well, you would think so.
But it is. And that's another thing that I think, unions sort of shot themselves in the foot with. They should have had the Democrats, make that a tax deduction, but nope.
Well, it's taken out before taxes, so I guess, you can look at it that way probably. It's like your Medicare and Medicaid is taken out there. You don't pay taxes on that till later.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those things you look at it on a progressive basis. Right?
All right, yeah. All right. All right, let's take a quick call. Caller, we're up against the clock. What's going on?
Yeah, this deal about the union guys. I was retired construction. I went to work on a dam job in Arizona, and the guys that were working for the government were making more than I was, and I was a union worker. And all these people there in Washington, D.C. are in the unions. When they get government laid out, when they close up the government, they still get paid. When they go back to work, they don't lose a dime. So the union is covering somebody. It's not always the little worker bee.
There you go. Hey, well said. All right. Hey, thanks for the call. All right, we got to duck out here, pay some bills. Troy Downing will join us coming up, and we will be chatting with him at 12 o'clock hour, and also T50 KMMS in Bozeman, 1340 KPRK in Livingston, online KMMSAM.com. We'll be back after this. Don't go anywhere. Hang on.